Hey everybody, Jamie French here, and I'm doing an AMA for adulttime.com. It's my 15-year anniversary in the adult entertainment industry, so that's what we're doing here. Now, with the intro out of the way, I'm going to put on my glasses because I can't see a thing, and I want to be able to read your questions. And they're already popping in. Oh my goodness. We got all kinds of people joining. This is amazing. Okay, so while I let the room kind of populate, the way it's going to work is live questions are going to be handled first. And if there's like a lull in between questions, I have a list of questions that have been sent in prior to this stream, and I'll answer those so we can fill up as much time as we can. So I got everything set up. I'm surrounded by drinks and candy, and hope you don't mind if I smoke. And yeah, again, I'm going to keep my glasses on. I'll try not to make them glare too much. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so I guess first things first. How's everybody doing? So I'm reading, and let's see. All right, let's start off with a first initial question. Somebody asked me anything. We got a lot of people popping up. So I have somebody ask me if I have a boyfriend. I do not. Somebody says they're from Brazil. That's neat. Somebody is stoned. Somebody's asking if I'm gay. I should hope so. We have somebody from Iran tuning in. Hello from America. Somebody popping in from Albania. Hey, again, hi from America. Somebody's asking if I do drugs. I do not. I kind of pride myself on being the squarest motherfucker at the party. There's a lot of people saying where they're from, and to all those people, again, hi from America. Yes, I got another person asking if I'm trans. I absolutely am. Sweet. So, okay, so while you love TS, life good, yes. You love TS? Yeah, so do I. Yeah, we got something in common. Am I a boy or a girl? You know, whatever floats your fancy. Oh, somebody said you have a beautiful face, and I really like you. You're gorgeous, and you're lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, it looks like the room is starting to populate, and we're going to let people kind of acclimate to the show. So before I take any live questions, I'm going to go ahead and start with question number 1 that I have on the list here. It starts off with a doozy. What is your most embarrassing moment in porn? Right out of the gate. Fucking. Okay, well, golly, in my 15 years of doing this stuff, there are 3 that spring to mind. The first one is more silly. It was a little embarrassing, but I think it was around 2013. I was shooting some content in my own home, and it was like a massage table scene. I had gone out, I bought a massage table, and I hired some local talent male talent to come over that I had worked with previously, and we had gotten to doing a massage scene. Real basic, standard fare, 20-minute scene. But I didn't take into account how like oily and slick the scene would wind up being. A lot of lube, a lot of baby oil, a lot of stuff towards the end of the video when things really heat up. And essentially what had happened was I was placed from the massage table to a kind of like a, what do they call it? It was like a footstool kind of thing, like large enough to like hold the entirety of my body, but it was covered in vinyl, black vinyl, shiny, cool looking, pops really well on camera. And I was placed on my back with my legs over my head, and I was, kind of being handled. I don't know how, what words I could use on this stream, but let's just say I was being handled. And things were getting really hard, and they got so hard, and I was so slick with lube that it's like we didn't even get a minute into it, and one thrust too many, and bam, I zoomed right off the fucking thing, and I literally fell down onto the ground with like the speed of a bullet, and knocked my head on the adjacent wall, and that was pretty embarrassing, but that was more funny than anything. The moment it happened, everybody in the room started just losing their shit, and it really helped ease the embarrassment and tension. It's just, these kind of things can tend to happen on set. It's part of the business. But that was like the first thing that I like springs to mind as embarrassing. The second was, and I'm gonna like keep names and companies out of this next story, just because it was more embarrassing for me, and I don't want to implicate anybody in anything. But for hardcore fans, I'll give a few clues. It was in 2016. It was when I had my side shave, and it was for a big production company. And that's as much as I'll say as far as who and what. But I had gotten to set, and everything was going fine. I had met my male talent that I was to be paired with, got makeup done. Anyway, we get to the scene, and professional porn set takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours for like a nice 20-25 minute chunk of film. And we're about halfway through. So like this is like the 2.5 hour mark. And I realized, I look at my male talent, and something kind of clicked and snapped. And I realized that the dude looked exactly like my dad. And that completely fucked up my whole mindset. And I powered my way through it. But when we get to the end of the scene for the whole, like, pop shot type of deal, I had lost all will to, like, you know how when you pleasure yourself and everything's all done, the last thing that, like, all you can think about is, like, tacos or whatever. All the sex goes away. That's how I was during, like, the later half of the entirety of the scene. So when it comes to the pop shot, I could not get anything to work. And I felt like I had, we had to kind of, in the industry, sometimes you have to fake it. You put together a concoction of some goo, and you find a good camera angle, and you find a way to, make it spurt a little bit, and, Hollywood magic. But I felt so embarrassed that it came to that, and that had to happen. But we still knocked it out. Everybody got paid. Everybody was happy at the end of the day. But I felt that to be really embarrassing, because I wasn't living up to the standard that I had set for myself up to that point. And then I think the last thing that really embarrassed me, or that I found embarrassing in porn, was relatively recent. It was earlier this year. or maybe just at the tail end of 2020. And I don't mind naming names in this one because it's fine. I was on, I think, my second Trans Angel shoot. And I was paired up with an amazing male talent. And everything was amazing. The entire experience was awesome. But I think what I had done before the shoot was I had gone a little bit overboard with the cleansing of myself. You know, yeah, I was a bottom for that scene. And, you know, I in the back of my mind, I knew better, to, like, be so, I guess, thorough with my cleansing regimen. So what happened was, towards the end of a scene, weird things always happen towards the end of a scene. I had essentially, I'd kind of leaked all over the surface where we were shooting. Essentially, you know, between you and me, I kind of shit the bed. But not like in a gross way. It's just a lot of water. It was very embarrassing because we had an amazing PA on set, a production assistant, and his job is to, like, clean up messes and you know, tend to talent and make sure everything goes as smooth as possible during filming. And yeah, I kind of screwed the pooch on that one, kind of messed the bed. But it was nothing that, like the company I was working with, the talent I was working with, everybody on board, this is something that, it happens. I mean, it happens. It's not that big a deal. You know, and we're less concerned about that it happened and more concerned about, well, let's clean it up real quick, you know, get the right camera angles to shoot around that. But I imagine, you can imagine that having that happen in the midst of, you know, the most hardcore part of a scene where you're really supposed to sell everything, and that happens, oh boy. Yeah, it can be an embarrassing moment. So that is the first of the written questions, and I have a tendency to go at length. So what I'm going to do now is take a brief moment to look at so many people in this room asking things. It's going to be hard to pick one out, but if you give me just a second, I will try to do just that. Okay, so I have somebody asking what my name is. I'm Jamie French. Good to meet you. Let's see. Man, there's a lot of, like, people just saying hi and stuff, and hello to everybody. I'm so glad that you guys are in this room. I'm so glad you're checking out the show, the stream, as it were. Yeah, let's... Hola to you too. Okay, and this is, like, part and parcel of this kind of thing. There's going to be requests for me to do, like, lewd or lascivious stuff, and I'm afraid that just can't happen on Instagram. This is more about interaction with fans and stuff, and I can't really show the goods. But the good news is, I'm easy to find. I'm a Google search away, and Jeezy flips, can you find so much? Let's see. Oh, I got a lot of people that are... Oh, don't be butthurt, guys. It's Instagram. There's no adult content allowed here. Everything will get ruined if I try to do that. People will lose their accounts and all kinds of things. It's no bueno. Am I wearing heels right now? Unfortunately not. I'm kind of in a comfort zone. I'm just wearing socks. Okay, so I got what looks to be an interesting question. Which has more viewers, regular porn or transgender porn? Well, I think, quote-unquote, regular porn, mainstream stuff. obviously gets more views. But I'll tell you what, the trans content has very loyal views. You know, that's kind of the nature of scarcity. You know, trans has come a long way as a niche or as a particular flavor in this industry, and it's a whole lot. It's like the lay of the land is a lot different than it used to be even 5 years ago, and so a lot of people are coming out. A lot of people are, you know, putting their foot into this business that are trans, and so we're getting really high volume comparatively to just years previous. But at the same time, it really is a matter of like the fans that look at trans, they're like specifically into it. They're just drawn to what we do. And so they stick around, and like customer retention is really high for us. So the view is less, you know, like the view count is less than mainstream porn, but we do enjoy, in a weird way, a little more like stability as performers as far as our income is concerned. And that's always a great thing. And, you know, I don't mean to speak for anybody, but I will for a second. On behalf of trans folks in this industry, well, thank you. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being so adamant about following us and purchasing our wares. It was really appreciated. So, oh man, I mean, they're flying by. The questions are flying by so fast, it's hard to keep up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip on to the second question on my list. We have, and these aren't from, it's all anonymous. They're not from anybody in particular. But we have a question here that says, do you like women better than men? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Matt, I guess it depends on, like, it's circumstantial. It's circumstantial. I don't, like, broadly, I don't have a particular preference. I think if it concerns, like, being in a relationship, I'll put it this way. I'm drawn more to, like, the, like, feminine features, but it doesn't mean you have to have a vagina or you have to be trans with only, like, so many years under your belt so that you pass or anything. Nothing like that. I just like things that are kind of, like, lithe and soft around the edges, and pretty, just stuff that's, like, considered pretty, in quotes, like in a classical sense. But that doesn't mean I don't have any love for men. Far from it. I think there is... It comes down to, like, chemistry. You know, it's that classic thing. At the end of the day, it's chemistry. You know, who you appreciate, like, that initial meeting, that spark. And from where I stand, that could be anybody. And it could be for, you know, whatever that chemistry is. But that's speaking towards, like, potential relationships or just, you know, meeting and appreciating another human being as friends or whatnot. I think, like, when it comes to work, all bets are off. You know, I'm here to pay rent. And so I'll work with, you know, whoever I'm paired up with, barring very specific circumstances. I don't want to just be paired with anybody if it means that I'm working with somebody who may have a reputation for being toxic, or, and this is going to sound a little bit shitty, but maybe somebody who, like, boy or girl or whatever, if it doesn't hit my eye the right way, if I just don't, you know, there has to be some sort of initial chemistry or attraction in order to make a scene work well, in order to be able to sell it for your customers and put as much yourself into it. But those situations where I don't, you know, I'm paired with somebody or somebody hits me up to do a scene, and it's just something about their look or something about them, the way they carry themselves, that doesn't appeal to me, then, I reserve the right to say no. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often. So for that particular question, do you like women better than men? I hope the answer suffices. So I'm going to go back to what everybody's talking about and see if I can pick one out from the live questions. You're a MILF sexy bird. Well, you know I do it, Cam. Thank you. Let's see here. Don't mind me, I'm going to take a sip. All right. So I'm not a big fan of dead air. I actually run a podcast. It's called The Approximate Podcast. And a show like this is very much like one of my sub-podcasts that I do under the umbrella podcast. It was just called Approximate Answers. And it's exactly what we're doing right now. So this is not unfamiliar territory. But I do want to try to keep radio silence to a minimum. So let's get some more questions here. Somebody ask me anything that you want to ask. I'm getting a lot of comments, not so many questions. All right, so again, somebody's asking me what my name is. I'm Jamie French. And with that, I'm going to move on to before I go any further, somebody said a fat joint. No, I'm one of those kind of people that, like, pot doesn't necessarily agree with me. I've done it 4, maybe 5 times in my life, and different strains, and I find that, like, the first thing that occurs to me the moment the high starts setting in is that I want it to immediately stop. I don't get that relaxing kind of thing. I don't get any kind of euphoria out of it. I just feel really confused and kind of anxious. So I don't really smoke pot. So what you see me having here, this is not pot. This is I know it looks thick and it looks like it might be some sort of joint or blunt or something. It's just a Black & Mild cigarillo. This is what I've been using to wean myself off of years of smoking cigarettes. And the reason why, real quick, is because they take a long time to smoke, and they're so rich in their flavor that once you have like 1 or 2, you're done for a long while. So a pack of 5 will last you the entire day. And they're cheap. So they're cost effective, and they keep me smoking a lot less than I've been accustomed to over many, many years of being a smoker. So no, sorry, it's not pot. It's just a simple dumb vice. So let's see. We may have another question here. Okay. Again, a lot of comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip down the list. And, oh boy, let's just take these one at a time. I got a question here that says, who is your favorite adult entertainer? Man, that is tough. That is tough because, not only do I work in the industry, but I am a fan. It's hard to say, especially because I have that, like, extra perspective of being in the industry. So picking out a particular favorite is, like, now my answer is now augmented through my experience. It's not just who I like to look at, but like who I've had a chance to interact with. Tough call. There's been so many people I've enjoyed their work, and so many people that I've enjoyed working with, and there's like a pretty good Venn diagram over, an overlap. I think the most diplomatic answer is to say that I couldn't possibly pick a favorite, which I know, boo, that's a shit answer. But honestly, I've been fortunate enough to where, like, the people whose craft I enjoy, I've actually got to work with a lot of those same people over the years. And I don't know that I could pick a favorite. I'll just say that I have enjoyed the ride. Before, during, and after, just being apart from consumer to worker. Yeah, I've just enjoyed all the people that I've had an opportunity to work with or witness. I'll put it that way. So let's see if there's another live question. Oh my God, we're almost halfway through, guys. This is going at a nice clip. So let's see. So many, you guys are just zooming through. Oh, okay, so we have a legitimate question here. Not that the comments aren't legitimate. I appreciate all the kind words. Why do most male to female never complete the transition? Well, this is one of those questions where it's safest to speak for myself, because I haven't gone all the way. But I've gone pretty far. Which is to say that I've gone through hormone replacement therapy. You can see I had boobs installed. And also, although I still have my penis, I have had an orchiectomy. Which means I don't have testicles. So I've come as far as a person could go without going all the way. There's no more parts to clip off before I'm all the way on the other side. And the reason why, in my particular case, is because, well, one, it's such a huge, and, mind my parlance, transition. It's such a huge change that I think to anybody, it would be kind of a scary prospect. And it certainly was in my case. But I took my time. I didn't rush into any decision. I had enough time to kind of parse out what was good for me, over the course of many years. And I decided at the end of the day, I wanted to feel and look as feminine as possible, for my own sake, and, actually get acclimated to that, let the novelty of it wear off, and just be a person again without thinking about gender, which is the point I'm at today. But also, while pursuing that ambition, there were certain things that I needed to take care of for my own physical health. And going through hormone replacement therapy was a huge part of that. But also, there's only so much hormone replacement therapy you can take, especially testosterone blockers, before your body starts to, your liver in particular, will start to shut down. And the only way around that, you take too many years of testosterone blocker, you'll really hurt yourself. The only way around that I could fathom and continue to go on my journey was to get an orchiectomy, which kind of essentially just removes, everything. It removes all of the things that make your testosterone. Once the balls are gone, forgive my French, once the balls are gone, you're done. You don't have to, there's nothing more to block with pills. So you set your liver at ease, essentially. So I went ahead and did that. And there were definitely notable side effects, good and side effects, I won't call them bad, but a new way to acclimate to, how your body functions. So I noticed right away when I got the orchiectomy, my libido had dropped to essentially nothing. And in a way, that was kind of good for me, because before that operation, I was, and this is, we're going to get a little honest with each other here. I was hypersexual to a point where I started to feel uncomfortable with things I was delving into, my, like, persistence of, like, I mean, it's one thing for your job to sell fantasy and have, like, a nice, healthy sexual libido and use that to your advantage to do the work that you got to do. It's another thing to be, like, chronically masturbating, almost upwards of 10 times a day, and, like, have it be so preoccupying that you just find yourself laying in bed all day and, like, cruising the internet and doing poppers and getting off in a way that literally starts to affect your day-to-day life. And it sucks to admit it, but I'm as human as the next person, and that's kind of where I was. So when I got the orchiectomy and the libido kind of dropped to nothing, it was very freeing in a way. And there was this sense of clarity, and that I really enjoyed and kind of never knew I always needed. So that was actually, as much as that kind of sucked, it also kind of ruled. And then I found quickly that having a persistent libido actually didn't stand in the way of me being able to do my job or be intimate with, partners and significant others. Turns out that after an orchiectomy and you lose that libido, your feelings don't go away. Your heart still works. Your emotions still work. And when you do have that chemistry with somebody and you're able to, like, enjoy a loving relationship and things start to get intimate, everything kind of clicks right back on. So I'm very functional. And it goes the same way for the business I'm in too. When I'm on set, if I'm paired with a partner that there's that chemistry with, I find that everything works, and the only thing that would stand in my way is, day-to-day anxiety. You're going through a rough patch maybe here and there, and that would have affected me. I can't speak. That would have affected me anyway, orchiectomy or not. So, yeah, that was a long way to explain why some folks might go all the way through the surgery and some folks might not. But again, my answer is through the lens of my own personal experience. Similar stories might happen for other trans folks, but I can only speak for myself. But good question, and I hope that, kind of answered some things for you. So I'm going to go back to the live questions. Let's see. I think I got one here. Hey, any guys want to... Oh, somebody's putting spam. I almost got drawn into it. But that happens. Lay of the land. So I'm going to move on to another question on the pre-recorded list of questions. And I want to thank everybody that sent in these questions and were, like, so thoughtful with their inquiries. You're making the show work and move right along. So let's see. Tell us about your first adult scene. Well, that's very pertinent to today's show, seeing as this is my 15-year anniversary in the business. I've gone at length on my podcast about my first experience, my first official real set in the industry. But to kind of squish it down into a nice short story. So I started off as a sex worker in 2015. It was kind of on a dare. I was working my last official job ever on the grid, my last Joe job, as it were. I was slinging pizzas at a large chain, and I was working the line. We had a new hire come in. It's this, like, really cool, free-spirited bohemian girl. And she had worked, they put her next to me working the pizza line. And she had noticed over the course of a week or so that I had remnants of black nail polish on my, and like, smudges of makeup on my face from whatever previous night's adventures were. And she looked at me and she pegged me right away. She said, I used to work in the sex industry. I used to be a dominatrix. And I think that if you went on Craigslist, you'd clean up. You'd do really well. I think you should do that. I had no idea what this lady was talking about. It just had never occurred to me. Again, this is like 2005. But I knew I was kind of dissatisfied with working a Joe job. In fact, I was very dissatisfied. And I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of options in life. But I was dissatisfied enough to where I took her up on her dare, and I went home that night and I just threw caution into the wind, and I went to visit Craigslist, and I was like, oh my God, this is a thing. Oh my God, they do have an escort section. This is real. People do this. So I floated through some ads, and I copied and pasted some stuff that seemed pertinent, and I made my own ad. Took a picture with my T-Mobile flip phone at the time, which was grainy and shitty, and I put it up, and I made an ad. And I walked away from the computer and thinking, nobody's gonna fucking answer this. This is silly nonsense. I came back an hour later, checked my email. Every response in the world. So I had a kind of a come to Jesus moment at that point. I looked at the screen and I thought, do I have the guts to do it? And I decided after a few minutes of deliberation that, fuck it, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I picked what I thought was the safest looking response and set up the appointment. And I went through with it, and it was one of the most, it was not like you see in the movies. It completely, blew away my expectations of what sex work was. It was just hanging out with somebody for a good hour and really just shooting the shit and, helping somebody through their loneliness. And, I'd like to imagine that I'm personable, and that he enjoyed the time that we spent together. But eventually what had happened was the appointment ended, and we came back to my place, and I did a little something special. It wasn't anything at all, really. Nothing I cared about doing it. I didn't feel gross or weird or anything. I just had a little bit of a good time, and then at the end of it, I take the little bag I had prepared, brought it back to my bedroom. All was done, all was well. Opened up the bag, and there was more money there that I made in an hour, essentially just hanging out, than I would normally make in 2 weeks slinging pizza. And from that moment on, I never went back to work. I didn't even pick up my last paycheck. I decided that is what I was going to do from then on. I spent a year doing that. And that brings us to the point of the question, how did I do my first scene? Well, I realized after a year of essentially just being a sex worker that there had to be something else. There had to be another tier, in the ladder. And I while I was thinking of that, I accidentally tripped backwards into porn. And there's a lot of details and so much story involved. And I highly recommend you check out my podcast for that story. But to kind of put a bow on it and wrap up this question, because we have more to go to. Essentially what had happened was I had done my very first shoot for Groovy. I'm sure many of you that are into trans know the name Groovy. They're essentially the Coca-Cola of trans porn. Big, huge company. And I was invited to go out and do a shoot. I had lived in Texas. They wanted me to drive 1,200 miles out to Sarasota, Florida to do my first shoot. I barely had the means to do it, but the moment they offered it to me, I said, yes, I can do it. Fingers crossed, skin of my teeth. I scraped up just enough money. I had just barely able to afford gas. Showed up to set in Sarasota, Florida, kind of sight unseen. I had not met the person that was going to shoot me yet. It was just assumed that I would show up at a particular hotel, check in, and that the next day a producer would show up and we would shoot the scenes. And so I was flustered and nervous, and I had no idea if this was even real or if this was a scam. But I had direct connection, like direct contact with the CEO of Groovy, Steven. Shout out to you. And he put my mind at ease, having not heard anything from the producer. I probably bugged the shit out of Steven. So many texts. Is this real? Is everything going the way it's supposed to go? I haven't heard from the producer or anything. But he did set my mind at ease, and it turns out that everything worked out just fine. And it was 2 days worth of shooting. I left Sarasota, Florida after a 2.5 day visit with $1,100 in my pocket. And that's how everything officially started for me. Now, it would be a good year or two before I shot another quote-unquote professional scene for like a studio. But what I had done in that year was my ambition rocketed through the roof, and I immediately set upon becoming an independent producer. I had taken all of my escort money and used it as capital to invest in myself, cameras, lights, tutorials, learning how to do things. So escorting became actually a lot more purposeful. It became the money that I would raise through being a sex worker, became seeds for larger ambitions. And, from then till now, it's just been this like weird, crazy, amazing, like upward journey with little peaks and valleys, but always on an upward climb towards living a better, more sustainable, healthier, happier life. And so that's kind of where I am now. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see. I'm going to check back in with the room and see where we stand. Geez, he flips, guys. It's been 45 minutes. Again, we're cruising right along. We got 15 minutes to go. So, again, I'm going to check out the room and see what we got. Oh, okay. So, great question. Somebody's asking, what's the name of my podcast? It's called The Approximate Podcast. And if you go to YouTube and, if you're going to type it in your URL, like in your thing, go youtube.com/TS Jamie French. That'll bring you right to it, spelled how it sounds. Or you could just Google Approximate Podcast, and right away you should find the show on SoundCloud or, iTunes, YouTube, and so many other places where podcasts are displayed. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. And please do check out the stuff. We put a lot of hard work into it. So, excuse me. I've been talking a lot. Let me take a drink real quick. Okay, so I have somebody that just says, stepmom. Have I ever done a scene where I played a stepmom? I don't think that... I have, actually, very recently for Transensual. Is that what it... Yeah. Shot an amazing scene that I actually, because it hasn't come out yet, I'm not really at liberty to talk about it. But just keep your eyes on my Twitter. You'll see it soon enough. But there is a stepmom that I shot with the amazing Dante Cole. Very hot scene. You guys will like it a lot. All right, so just a bunch of sweet comments. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to skip along to another pre-recorded question. Let's see. what do you like most about being in the industry? I have to say, it's the autonomy and the self-actualization. You know, like I kind of alluded to in the previous story, I was kind of lost for a little bit. I had started working, just regular jobs, mostly, customer service and service industry work, all above the board. From the time I was 16 till, like I said before, when I was 25. And I was a musician the whole time. I was a dreamer. I had huge ambitions for, like, entertaining and creating and making stuff. But I was, essentially poor, and there's not a whole lot of room for dreams when you're poor. And I'd probably gone, my friends and I at one point tried to count up all the different jobs that I had. And it was like about, I think I had gone through like 25 jobs from the age of 16 to 25 before I kind of wound up doing what I do in like a very surreptitious fashion. But when I did finally discover sex work and finally did discover the adult entertainment industry and, got my foot in the door and became acclimated to the ins and outs of what all this is, it wasn't the sex, it wasn't the, I'm pretty square. It's not that I did any of this stuff to like, feed a habit or party or anything like that. It was that I finally found a space where I could be my own boss, which is something I absolutely needed to be. I was just built to be that. I got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder for authority, and I want to be able to do what I want to do, which is to express and create and communicate. And porn, the adult entertainment industry, sex work, all of that has provided this really amazing foundation by which I can, have my time, my personal time, mean so much more than what it used to mean when I was just working a day job. And I needed to be said that I understand that I'm in a very privileged position. I had something that I could take advantage of and turn it into like this prosperous, endeavor. And I had, I'd like to think that I have a good head on my shoulders, but I was able to like utilize like some sort of clarity and some sort of, I suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect like anybody else. I suffer from, imposter syndrome, but I'd like to think I'm a little bit smart, and I was able to use that in conjunction with being in the adult entertainment industry that allowed me to, feel like I'm my own person and I get to do as I fit, or do as I please and do as I see fit. And I couldn't give that up for the world. Couldn't give that up for the world. So, yeah, what's my favorite part about being in the adult entertainment industry? I get to be me as fully as I possibly can. And there's still ways to go, and I'm an imperfect person. And, it's always a journey to live a better and better life. But on the whole, geez, he flips. I'm so glad that this industry exists, and I get to be a part of it. So I hope that answers the question there, whoever decided to type that in. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go back to the room. We have 8 minutes left, y'all. Let's see. Okay, I got another question here that kind of mimics what we talked about at the top of the show. Are you hetero, gay, or bisexual? None of those things apply to me. I don't even like the idea of the labels. I do what I please, and that's it. I just do as I see fit. No labels required. Okay, so geez, okay, we're coming down on 7 minutes, so I'm gonna get back to the list because again, you guys are so sweet. There's so many awesome comments, but not a lot of live questions, which is totally fine. I just love being able to hang out with y'all. Let's see. Do you cook? What do you like to make? Cooking is my love language. Food is my love language. I adore cooking. I'm not a professional by any means, but I think like with most people, I have like 3 or 4 dishes I like to think I've perfected. I love having people over. I love hosting and being able to cook for folks. But what do I like to make? I'm really big on like grilling right now. Getting like a really nice cut of meat, or making things that are like grill oriented, kebabs and of course steaks and barbecue, things of that nature. But also pairing the grilled meats with like fresh grilled vegetables, and finding that perfect blend of spices and marinade that's not too much, but looking for that sweet spot. And just yesterday had an amazing meal with a friend of mine where we just grilled some decent steak, and it was like one of the best meals I've had in maybe months, if not a year. And there was so much that went into the experience other than the food in and of itself. It was just like, it was the perfect time to grill. The weather outside was amazing. We had like a really kick-ass spot to hang out and just be like comfy and cozy. So when I talk about food and the joy of making food, it's also all the other like things that surround the experience of having a meal. So yes, I do love to cook. And I love everything about it. And I love that, that kind of call and response, that social call and response of making, a well-made meal. So, hope that answers your question there. Okay, so we're coming at 5 minutes left. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to handle one more question. Okay, and this is a great question to go out on before I do a special little bonus thing for y'all, and then we'll call it a day. How was it shooting, being trans 24/7? Okay, so I did this amazing shoot for Adult Time. They have a series, a new series called Being Trans 24/7, and it's part documentary and part adult scene. And it is essentially what the title implies. It's kind of a documentary interview series where you simply describe what it is to be trans. And I got to shoot it all myself. I didn't have to like go anywhere and do the thing. They actually left me to my own devices to like come up with the best performance that I possibly could. The hardcore scene and the interview. And they didn't just take me willy-nilly. They wanted some credentials. They wanted to know that I knew what I was doing, so I sent them a production reel, gave them a rundown of the equipment I was using, and they were very satisfied with that and trusted me to essentially shoot the documentary portion and whatnot. And as far as the actual content, I think it went pretty well. It's hard for me to judge since I'm on the inside looking out. I'd like to think that I, checked all the boxes and did all the things. But I feel pretty good about it. And then, the hardcore scene that I shot for it, I shot with a really cool friend of mine, Jenna Creed, and I, hired a producer, Penny Petals, to run the camera, and had set up most of the, production myself as far as lighting and, the storyboards and all that. And I hired a PA, Courtney Steele, if anybody knows who that is. And so, like, I was able to put a team together and get it all done, and I think it came out pretty good. But again, I'm the worst judge since I'm the person making it. But it was an amazing experience and a wonderful, like, opportunity to be able, like, to be a part of it. So, yeah. And with that out of the way, I'm going to take a drink of soda here. Excuse me. And now we're coming at the last part of this AMA. And since this was a performance, I like to say, leave them with the song and a smile in their heart. So I'm gonna run this out by playing a song for you, and it's no particular song. It's just one of my favorite tunes. It's by Tom Waits, and it's called "For an Affair." And let's see if we can wrap this AMA. And thank you everybody so much. And here we go. When traveling abroad in the continental style, it's my belief that one must attempt to be discreet. And subsequently bear in mind the transient position allows you a perspective that's unique. And though you find that your itinerary's a blessing and a curse, your wanderlust won't let you settle down. And you'll wonder how you ever fathom that you'd be content to stay within the city limits of a small Midwestern town. Most vagabonds I know, they never want to find the code that remains the object of the long relentless quest. The obsession is in the chasing and not the apprehending. The pursuit you seek can never arrest. Without fear of contradiction, bon voyage is often hollered in conjunction with the handkerchief from shore, by a girl who drives a Rambler forevermore, who's overly concerned that she won't see him anymore. Planes and trains and boats and buses characteristically evoke a common attitude of blue. So have a suitcase, a ticket, and a passport, and the cargo that they're carrying is you. A foreign affair juxtaposed with the stateside, a romantic fantasy is mysteriously attracted to the circumstances, knowing it will only be parlayed. It will only be parlayed. It will only be parlayed into a memory. Thank you all. And on behalf of Adult Time, thank you all. And on behalf of y'all, thank you all. This has been a blast. Y'all have a good night. Bye.